Is underway for Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the once mistakenly deported man who is now being held in a Tennessee prison on human smuggling charges. His lawyers want him brought back to Maryland while the case plays out, but the Justice Department wants a civil lawsuit over his return to the U.S. dropped. And a familiar scene outside the courtroom this morning as supporters rally to demand Kilmar Abrego Garcia's release.
They thought that as the days, weeks, months went by, we would forget about Kilmar. They thought that once they launched an aggressive smear campaign against him, we would turn our backs on him and his family.
All right, let's bring in CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane in Washington for us. Scott, what are you hearing so far from inside that courtroom?
Yeah, there are some theatrics in the courtroom today, but let's just set the stage here first. This is the latest chapter in a lengthy back and forth legal battle over Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and it's far from clear if we're getting near the end of the book or if we're somewhere in the middle with this chapter. In court in Maryland today, the judge Paula Zinnes, who months ago ordered Abrego Garcia returned to the United States from El Salvador, is asking the Department of Justice why he wasn't returned as ordered and why he was only returned after he was charged with a crime in Tennessee, where he's now being held. The judge is accusing the Department of Justice of some bad faith here, that they clearly could have returned Garcia earlier, but they didn't. That's the foundation of the arguments today. Here's what Abrego Garcia wants. He wants to be returned to Maryland, from which he was deported, instead of being held in Tennessee, where he's facing a human smuggling charge. What's more, he does not want to be deported by the feds, as the Department of Justice has argued he is poised to be. So a lot of balls in the air, but in court over the last hour, it's quite clear the judge is displeased that her orders from early this spring were disregarded, and now she's not getting good answers from federal prosecutors.
So Scott, on what basis could Abrego Garcia be moved to Maryland while his case is still being tried in Tennessee?
That really is the fundamental question of this hearing. But the bottom line is he faces criminal charges in Nashville, accused of human smuggling years ago. That's why he was ultimately brought back. He was brought back to Tennessee, not Maryland. They're making the argument that the judge in Tennessee doesn't believe he should be held in pretrial jail because the charges aren't significant enough and the accusations aren't significant enough. His lawyers want him then transferred back to the area where he was deported from, Maryland. But the cloud that hangs over all of this is the feds want to deport him, arguing he's an undocumented immigrant. So that's a variable. That's why I say we're in another chapter of a very electric story, but it's not clear this is the last chapter.
Yeah, clearly not. Scott, we also want to ask you about the reporting on the Justice Department's probe into the Jeffrey Epstein case. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, CBS News Review has found videos released by the Department of Justice that purport to show Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell when, according to the feds, he committed suicide, died by suicide some years ago. Jeffrey Epstein, though, has been the focal point of some rampant conspiracy theories and some allegations that the government is hiding information about his death and hiding information that he may have about others who are engaged in a criminal scheme to exploit children. The release of the video and reporting that the Department of Justice has determined this to be a suicide and that there is no list of would-be accomplices is not quieting the conspiracy theories. It's only fueling them more.
Yeah, it's very, very hard for some people to let go of those conspiracy theories. Scott MacFarlane for us in Washington, thank you so much for your time today.